Welcome to Beyond Rent, the property management podcast brought to you by Rent Manager. Each episode, we sit down with an expert to talk industry updates, tech solutions, and top tips for those in the property management space. And now, let's get to the conversation and go Beyond Rent.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Beyond Rent. Welcome to a great episode because we're here with Mindy from Parish Consulting, where we're going to be diving into a really powerful tool for building a stronger company. And we're going to be talking about this idea of a monthly operating rhythm, right? So I'm excited to learn more, see what this really means and how it can really alter how you run your business and how your staff and your operations fit together in a better way. So let's kick things off. Mindy, welcome to Beyond Rent.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be part of this show. I've been watching it or listening to it for quite some time, so I'm honored to be on it.
Yes. Oh, I appreciate you being here. You're actually in studio with us, which we always love when people are in studio. You're visiting our office today. You're interacting with our sales team this week. So we're super excited to get to know you better. And what a better way to get to know you than through a podcast. So without further ado, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
So I'm Mindy Parish. I'm the founder and chief consultant for Parish Consulting. I have been in the manufactured housing space since 1996, which is wow, just to say that. I have had the privilege, I will say, of working in the manufactured housing space for some of the larger operators and had some time at a software company learning the software, the behind the scenes. And so last year in May of 2024, I built Parish Consulting and decided it was time to do something for me and help other people in the manufactured housing space, or I would say property management, period. But my expertise comes from MH, help build companies that are geared for success. And how can they optimize their day-to-day processes, whether that's the software that they use or even just their operating procedures. And so I felt that my experience in the industry and in the software, using it and then also working for a stint at a company gave me insights that others might not have. And so I hope my plan and hope is to use some of those experiences and share with operators and help them, maximize their NOI and increase revenue and build stronger, better, more optimized teams.
That's great. And I'm really excited about the work that you're doing. And you're absolutely right. You've been in the industry for a while. You've seen all types of different sides of it, inside, outside, different perspectives. And you have all of this information, this knowledge, and you know what works and what doesn't work. So I'm excited to learn more from you over time, but especially in today's episode. And as you know, we work a lot in the manufactured housing space, just like you do. But we also work in other, aspects of the industry, from multifamily, single family, commercial. And this little secret that they're not that different. Right. But a lot of times people tend to put them kind of in different buckets and say, I'm this or I'm that. But a lot of the people that have kind of moved around know that the foundations are really the same. There's little nuances along the way you have to learn. And I just love that you have that insight into it and that you can bring all of those learnings from MH into other aspects of the industry as well.
Yeah, I think you said it, that people often, classify, it's apartments, it's manufactured housing, it's, single family, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're operating an asset, whether it's, 150 units or 10,000 units, you're operating an asset. You have financials, you have people, processes, and tools. And so do you have the right people in place? Do you have the right processes? And are you using the right tools? And if you have the right tools, are you actually using them the way that you should be? Which is, the exciting part of my relationship with Rent Manager, learning and understanding the software more intimately and then being able to help and share that with my customers.
That is such a common theme that we hear, especially I hear when I talk to people on this podcast and when I'm traveling, is that people are just not using their tools to the capabilities that they offer. And I know that's a big part of what you do when you consult with people is you say, what are you using? Why are you using it? And why aren't you using it better?
Right. I often found, even in the companies that I worked for, having moved from one to another, that we weren't using the full capacity of the system. And then, having gone to a software company and worked there, I realized, gosh, nobody is using it. And even now in my dealings, many of my own customers, they're not using their software solutions. And it doesn't matter what it is. They're not capitalizing on everything that the software solution has to offer. And then you hear complaints about, well, gosh, I wish it did this, or I wish I didn't have to do this way. And you're like, but did you know you can? And guess what? It's free. It's part of what you're already paying for. And so that is one of the best conversations I get to have with a customer. And the free part, did you know that you're already paying for this and it's just as easy as this? And so, I think that there's a lot of work to be done in helping customers optimize their tools.
You have a lot of work ahead of you. Well, let's jump into this idea of a monthly operating rhythm. So to just set the stage, the foundation, define that for me. What does that mean when you think a monthly operating system?
So I think when you have a large asset like a manufactured home community, an apartment complex, or multiple of any of those things, right? Think of marina, RV, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. There's a lot of aspects of managing that asset. There's a lot of things to keep in mind, and you cannot do it all at one time. And so if you put together a rhythm, right? You have a planned, I like to call them the monthly checklists. And so if you have this kind of focus each month, thinking about there's 4 core aspects of property management. You have your financial and kind of property performance. You have property appearance and safety. You have resident relations and kind of civic relations. And then you have, your overall capital expense management, which kind of falls into finance. But you have these different categories, that you need to be looking at. And again, you can't look at them all at one time. So if you put a rhythm together, a schedule, that these are the things I'm going to focus on each month to make sure that we're in line with what our standard policies are or procedures. Sometimes it's even evaluating those policies and procedures to make sure, are we still in compliance with whatever federal or state or local guidelines there are, or are we in compliance with our own, policies or standards? And then it's kind of like looking at everything as a whole, but in sections. So each month, each quarter, you're looking at different aspects of the business. So, and I'll say deep dive, right? You're looking at every aspect of the business every single month because you need to make sure you're hitting all those targets. But this gives you more of a rhythm. So each month, each quarter, you're looking in specific areas and drilling down in, am I really achieving the things that we set out to achieve when we built this company?
And so when you talk about this monthly operating rhythm, this is not just a 1 month. This is a annual plan where you're really looking at something in a more focused, deeper way at a certain time of year.
Exactly.
Now, is that time of year specific to the topic, the category, or does the company, how does that flow?
Absolutely. It is. It's very specific to the timing. And so like in January, you're looking at your financials because you're setting the stage for the year. What are my goals, which is your budget, right? What are we looking to achieve as far as occupancy and delinquency and sales? And obviously your revenue and expense are set and you're not going to be able to see, unless you have a crystal ball, you're not knowing where you're going to end up, but what am I projected to receive in income every month? What am I looking to spend every single month? And setting that stage. And I think, ironically, this was recently the topic of my September and August blogs. It's about budgeting. And you can set all of these numbers and have all of these plans, but if you don't communicate it and share it with your team, that's what this particular checklist is about. It's about your regional team, your district managers, your community managers, giving them the opportunity to take this moment and look through all of this information and understand it. What am I looking to do? And then again, each month is targeted towards specific things. In July or August, you'll likely do the same thing again, kind of recapping where was I the first half of the year, where do we have to go? And then other times of the year, it's kind of squeezing in those things that aren't time sensitive, but should be done annually, like safety inspections, right? Pick a time of the year that you're doing a safety inspection of your entire property. pick a time of year that you're doing home site inspections to make sure that you're not just your community, but the home sites or, apartments, if you've got balconies and those types of things, right? What does the exterior of my residence spaces look like? So the checklist encompasses anything and everything that it has to do with running a property, and then identifying, like I said, looking at it deeper, not just looking at the big picture, a deep dive into, what do my home sites look like? What do my driveways look like? What does my entrance look like? And so getting a deeper understanding of what's going on in your property.
Yeah, and we often talk about how busy people are in property management, right? Lots of different hats, lots of different tasks. There is a seasonality to different things that are happening where they're trying to just keep up with things. So how does having a plan like this keep them, more on the proactive side versus the reactive side?
Well, I think by setting a schedule and having a plan, and listen, in some communities, I talked about home site inspections. If you live in Arizona, the worst time to do a home site inspection is in July, right? Nobody wants to be out in 120 degrees. Yes, it happens, 110, okay, more likely, but nobody wants to be doing 400 home site inspections in July. And so some of these will need to be customized. Same thing if you live in Minnesota, you don't want to do inspections in January. So you pick different things and, okay, can I do my home site inspections in this month instead of that month? But if you have a structured plan, and you stick to that plan, then you're less likely to miss things. And you said the word proactive. I often find that we're being reactive and we're waiting for something to happen, which opens us up to large expenses and liabilities that don't necessarily need to be there if you were being proactive and following these checklists and making sure that things are getting done.
So when you're working with a company and you're kind of doing that consulting piece and helping them through all of these aspects of especially like something like this operating rhythm, how many pieces are already there? Like, are they doing some of these and it's just a little bit of patchwork where you're adding this or that? Or do you find most really are just 100% reactive, like you just said, and they really have to start from ground zero?
So I don't know that I would say it's ground zero, but I think often I think with any project, you have good intentions and you start out and you have a plan and you set everything up, and then years, months, years, whatever pass. And when was the last time you looked at that, right? We implemented leases and guidelines, rules and regulations for our residents to follow when we built the company, right? Or when we bought the community, however you came across it. But when was the last time you actually looked at them to make sure that they're still in compliance with all the whatever laws and regulations that are out there, or that they actually still go along with your core values as a company? So I think, we start things with good intentions and, we're going to come back and look at that. But then you get busy and you go from either you've acquired properties over time and you grow, or people change, right? Because we know it happens. People come and go, they find new jobs. And so it's just, this gives you an opportunity to ensure that you're looking at everything with a microscope more regularly rather than waiting for things to happen.
Yeah. And again, most people do wait until something happens because they're so busy with the other day-to-day things. So when somebody is looking to kind of implement a plan like this, how do they manage it? Like, what tools, I guess, are they using? You talked about earlier, having the right tools in place. Maybe it's software. How are they actually managing one of these lists? Because this sounds really robust. This isn't just like 4 things on a sheet of paper that you can put on a Post-it note.
Right. No, they're actual checklists. And in my past, we've managed them in a couple of different ways because these have kind of morphed with me over time in my many different positions. And so I think having some sort of software solution that you could help keep track of them could look like a couple of different things, right? There's many different ways that you could implement this, whether it's finding a way to implement it in your property management software, using a tool like Google or Microsoft or something like that. But you definitely want to maintain electronic copies of them for historical purposes. But usually it's allowing either your community manager or a regional manager or collectively them together do the inspections to make sure that things, they're boots on the ground, the people that are there and know what's happening in each community, and having them go through those checklists and then storing them in some sort of place. Or like I said, if you can use a property management software solution to automate, I don't want to say automate, but store them electronically. And then, in my world, I think, gosh, if you build it, they will come, right? If I could ask for an automation that says, oh, this is due at this time, maybe there's a world where that comes in the near future.
Yeah. Well, and the automation could be as simple as a reminder, right? Right. Pieces like that kind of help keep it all together. And then you started talking about like regional versus community, boots on the ground. Where does a checklist like this live? Is this something that is owned and completed right at the community level, or do you find that leadership is getting involved in oversight of these? I guess how big and broad does this go across the actual corporation?
So my recommendation in my experience would be that it's done at a regional or a district manager level, right? Because your community managers are there every single day and they often can get blinders, right? I drive into this property every single day. I see the same thing. Having another set of eyes come in and look at that and then evaluate it with the community manager, because I truly believe making them part of it is very important. It helps them grow. It helps them learn. But having somebody a level up from the manager do the checklist and review it, and then sharing that with the regional supervisor, having some sort of, so everybody has visibility into what's going on in the property. And that is going to look different at every company, the different tiers of employees that they have, and then, how involved senior leadership is with the day-to-day management. But I think the more people that have visibility into these checklists and the understanding of what's going on in each property, the more valuable they're going to be.
How would you compare what we're talking about here today, a checklist, this operating rhythm, with like an audit? Is it similar? Is it the same? Are you like scoring the quality of things and the condition of things? Or is it looking for things that are maybe outliers of this is now a problem, it wasn't a problem before?
I think it could be a mixture of both. And when I think audit, I think, in some of my past companies, they're looking at a lot of accounting stuff and they're focused on just the numbers. This goes much deeper because you're looking at, from tenant files, are they structured correctly? Are we keeping the right documents in the right places? Or do we even have the right documents? Do we even have resident files? And again, to community appearance. So I think of it as both. It's a little bit of an audit. It's a checks and balances as it relates to everything from the moment you drive into the community. What does it look like? How do I feel when I walk in? What are the residents? I always joke and say that if I walk in and or drive into a property and I wave and the resident doesn't wave back, I know they're not happy. And I joke about that, but it's the truth. If they don't wave back, that's telling me something. And so that's part of the checklist, right? What is resident relations like? And so it just, like I said, it gives you a deep picture of what's going on in your property.
What I love about this is it sounds like it's really a tool for not only managing the property, but improving the property, but also, you mentioned it earlier, helping to develop your team into better leaders and operators themselves. I know in a past life, audits were viewed almost as a negative because it was more of a performance evaluation of the on-site person, right? So now this person felt like they were being audited or judged. There's a final score, and that score is a personal reflection on them, not really a tool for improvement.
Right. And I fully agree with that. Having in my past life gone through audits, it often felt like that. And I try to use this as a tool to help them grow and often share, here's the blank copies. This is what I'm going to come and look at when I come out during this. Here's my monthly schedule. Here's the checklist. This is what you should be prepared for. And a really good manager who feels confident and supported and is given the coaching and the training that they need is going to go through that before their supervisor even arrives at the property, and feel like this is not me telling you you're doing something wrong. This is me telling you, hey, how can I help you improve in this area? And maybe it's not even them. What resources do we need to give you as a company to change this? And so I think it's the piece about making this about the people, the coaching and the training is critical, because it shouldn't be used as a tool. None of these checklists should be used as a tool to tell people that they're not performing. It should be used as a tool to help them grow and understand how to look at their own property as if they were the owner. How to manage this asset as if it were my own checkbook.
Yeah, and let's dive into that, because I think that part is really important. How are these checklists, this operating rhythm, being used as a training tool? Like, how do you see that like practically being used, and how does leadership get involved in that whole process?
Well, I think it starts, like I said, instead of just coming out and doing the inspection or, going through the checklists without them, or trying to, if it has to do with systems and processes, instead of doing it from your desk, go to the property and meet with the manager and show them these are the things that I'm looking at. This is where I'm going. If it's system related, here's in the system where I go. If I'm at the property and it's a property related inspection, here's the things, the different things that I'm looking at. And make sure that they understand the what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And what kind of impact is it going to have on them? And I think it starts from, leadership, right? We all have to communicate the what, the why, and the how it impacts them. And I think if you involve them from the very beginning, it becomes a very, very useful tool, a powerful tool that the managers are going to respect and appreciate, that they were brought into the process from the very beginning, and not just, surprise inspection. I'm here to look at something and, oh, by the way, you failed, kind of, nobody wants to feel like that. So I think it's how you communicate with them, right? How you share the information.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I agree. No one likes surprises. Oftentimes it feels like you're trying to catch them doing the wrong thing instead of helping them do the right thing. And help me understand the structure of the checklist. When you are on site working hand in hand with that community manager, are you looking at all aspects at once, or is it kind of that seasonality piece where you're really deep diving only into one piece at a time?
So for these particular checklists, it's each month is something different. And so you're focused on, let's say, one or maybe two aspects of the business. And so in my past life, when I was a regional manager, I was required to go out and make routine visits. What that means could be different from company to company. Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Whatever. It also could be different by property. Some properties need you to be there every single month because of all of the things that are happening. Some you probably need to go once a quarter, or maybe even, twice a year. So it just depends. But these checklists are different from that, in that when I go as a regional and I'm visiting a community, I'm looking at all the aspects, financials and property appearance and homes, what's for sale, what's going on. And I'm trying to get a big picture of everything. These allow me to drill down each month into something different and get more granular as to what's happening as it relates to financials or community appearance. And like I said, a safety inspection, I'm inspecting every inch of the property to look for things like trip hazards or whatever. And so each month you're looking at a different aspect. And twice a year you're repeating because you're looking at financials early year, mid-year to make sure you're on track.
And I think that is so important, because if you are truly focused on helping to develop people and make them into better community managers, empowering them, if you try to do all of it at once, it's going to feel very overwhelming. Where if you can just deep dive into one or two things, I think that's really consumable, right? It's approachable. They probably walk away feeling like, well, I can fix this one thing. I can work on these two things instead of giving them a list of 30 things they have to improve. That can be a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This helps them break it down into smaller chunks. And then, my motto is always deal with the worst first. So you can identify what are the areas that we really need to focus on. And again, it's where this is merely a guideline. And so it's 12 different checklists that you can rearrange in whatever particular order. The financials are probably the ones that are the most critical as far as the timing. Market surveys, those should be done at a specific time, but the rest of them, you can tailor to your community or your portfolio, whatever that looks like. It's just making sure that each of these things happen and you're looking at all of those aspects from financial, the fact that we're making money isn't the only thing that matters, right? Because if you've got safety issues and someone's tripping and falling but you're waiting until that happens, there goes that positive NOI pretty quickly because you have a liability lawsuit. And so this allows you to focus on everything, not just one thing.
What does the follow-up look like for this system, right? So you're doing this every month. You've got these deep dives. You're identifying areas of improvement. How do you make sure these things are getting done? Because I find that to be one of the hardest things, right? We all agree that we need to do something, but we can't all figure out how to actually get it done.
Well, and that again is always going to depend on the company and what it is that needs to be done. But it's first identifying what are the issues, and then depending on what it is, if it's our leases need to be updated or our rules need to be updated, setting a schedule and a plan to have those things done, and then reminders and making sure that they get done. Some of it is just going to boil down to time management and leadership, right? Leadership has to make sure that these happen. And then that's why I say the more people you involve in the process, the more likely you are to make sure that things get followed up on or are completed, because there's more accountability. And so it's just making sure that you've got all of the right people involved, and everybody's focused on making sure that what's identified actually does get resolved.
Because that's one of the biggest challenges in business, right? Especially when you're looking at a monthly rhythm, is it's easy to identify, but before you know it, the next month is here, you're doing that next topic, right? And you may not have dealt with all the things from that prior month. And I do agree, and I think that's a great tip, is that idea of like visibility and accountability. The more people that know what's going on, the more hands, the more eyes on it, to make sure it actually gets done.
Right. Well, and the nice thing is, because we've broken this out into small checklists, they're not, a safety inspection is obviously a big process. But some of them, it's as simple as answering 5 questions, right? Do you have all of your rules and regulations in place? Do you have all of your documents? What are residents given when they move in or they sign their leases, et cetera? So it's just, some of them are really simple and easy to go through, but it's easy to lose sight of those things when you're focused on all of the other things that are going on. And so it's just a reminder, stop, pause, and look at these things to make sure that we're still in compliance with, like I said, our own policies and procedures. Are the managers, maybe you have a new manager and you haven't gotten to the point of training them on that particular thing yet. And so this is just kind of a refresher for everybody, really, I think, including leadership.
And I love how most smart solutions, effective solutions, really are not overly complex. Like you said, a lot of these are relatively simple. They're direct. They make sense, right? You're not overcomplicating things. You're just providing focus.
Right. Exactly.
So let's talk about how having these rhythms and having leadership involved and focusing on your staff and developing them really leads to future success and long-term success. What have you seen as a result of putting these rhythms in place?
Well, I think you start with you wind up with managers who feel coached and mentored and supported. And so they're more confident in the day-to-day activities that they're required to do as a community manager. I'm going to, as I just focus on community managers for a minute, they're asked to wear a lot of hats, right? They're the social worker, they're the rent collector, they're the vendor. They're often trying to navigate large CapEx projects or even just regular, pool maintenance or landscaping maintenance. And so they're constantly pulled in a bunch of different directions. And when they have tools like this, a checklist or, training and coaching and mentoring, and they're left feeling like I am supported and I'm not I'm gonna get audited next week and I'm gonna get in trouble kind of thing, then they become more capable and able to manage their communities effectively. They think about it from an owner's perspective, and they're more thoughtful about the money that they're spending and why they're spending it and what they're doing. They're less likely to come to you and say, I need to do this, this happened, what should I do? They're more likely to come to you and say, this happened, these are my 2 choices, I think this is the best one, what are your thoughts, right? And that is the best kind of manager to have, because if you have the first one, my answer is, why are you here, right? If I have to make the decision, then, what do I need you for? And so I think that this empowers them. Then it also gives the leadership team visibility into what's going on. If you think of companies that have 10, 15, 20 or more properties, it's hard to stay focused on what's going on in each community. So you hire regional managers, district managers, et cetera, to manage those portfolios. They also have a bunch of things going on. They're trying to manage multiple people and multiple budgets and financials. And so this just gives everybody an opportunity to stay focused on the same things and make sure that we're all looking at everything from the same lens.
Yeah, that's so well put. And it's this idea of like empowering your people, right? Pushing decisions down to the appropriate level, the person that knows the most about it, and then letting them know that they're involved, right? That they can make the decision, that they are informed on what's going on, really makes it easier to actually manage the properties from a leadership standpoint.
Agreed. Yeah. Oh, it makes your job as the leader so much easier, because when I can walk into a community and know, okay, it's January, we're going to do the, financial review, and the manager is prepared for that. They've already done it. They've already done the homework. And I had managers like this where I would walk in and they would say, okay, here's, I'm going to use a bonus worksheet. We had the same bonus that we offered to every community manager based on the same targets. And I'd walk in and they'd say, it's February and I'm already missing occupancy or this, and here's why. And I need, what are you going to do for me? Those are the kinds of managers that you want. You want the ones that are proactive and they're looking at things to understand, I need this number of dollars in marketing and I need this from you. You want them to be thinking about that property as if they were the owner. And these types of tools help do that.
And it's always so exciting to work with people on a team that has that mentality, right? They understand where we're going. They want to get there. And instead of waiting for you, leadership, to do something, instead they're saying, I need this to be successful. We all know when they're successful, you're successful, and other people, the whole team is successful. So I'm sure that's just really inspiring to walk into that situation like that.
Oh, absolutely. I think, it makes for all of us, are stronger and better because of it. We all become more efficient. The company runs smoother. You're dealing with, how many of us have time to continually respond to these situations that arise that could have been prevented if we were proactive and we're looking at different things, a trip fall or hazard, right? Trip and fall hazard. There you go. Let's rewind. A trip and fall hazard. That if you had just done an inspection and found it, you could have removed it and nobody would have ever fallen. And now you don't have to respond to the resident's complaint or, concern that I've hurt. Now you don't have to worry about the attorneys. So there's a lot that can be gained from taking just a few minutes or hours every month to do these inspections.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're saying, that sounds great, I would love to be proactive, but I have so much going on, I don't have time to get ahead of it. What are some of your, pieces of advice or maybe some wisdom that you've gained to kind of get ahead of that curve and be able to start taking the right steps moving towards this type of system?
I would argue you can't afford not to do these kinds of things because it'll take one time. It'll take one incident or one thing that happens and you realize, my rules weren't in compliance. I missed that, right? It's easy to miss things that happen, new legislation, new whatever, and you forgot to update your guidelines. So my argument would be you can't afford not to take the time to do these. Delegate to somebody in your company. Find one person, even if it's, 2 people, whatever. Find someone who can make this their priority. Again, it doesn't take a whole lot of time. Or hire me. I'll gladly do it for you. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. I think that this is a powerful tool. Being able to look at your portfolio, each community with a microscope or just a wider lens and understand all of the different things. Again, I'll say it, you can't afford not to.
It makes a lot of sense to me. And since you said it, let's kind of dive into that. Let's talk a little bit more maybe about specifically what you are doing through your consulting services that relates to something like this. If somebody wanted to learn more and start using your services, what does that look like in a practice?
Well, so Parish Consulting is here to help owners and operators navigate the day-to-day operations, policies, procedures, whether it's helping you implement them, helping you define them, redefine them, update them, and in some cases, like I said, implement them, making sure that people are doing them. My goal is just to help. How can I help you be more efficient? Again, whether it's policies, software, whatever you're using, we help customers in a myriad of ways, and are always looking for what creative ways we can improve or change or benefit. A customer could benefit from our services.
Absolutely. Well, and what's really exciting is you talked about your history in the industry. Is you have held so many different roles and different perspectives that you understand the operational side, you understand the software side, you've been, I'm sure, up to your eyeballs in regulation and legal and all of these things and budgeting, that you understand how they fit together in ways that a lot of people, I think, can't really see from where they sit.
Yeah, I feel like I've been blessed in my career that I started at a property part-time, 4 hours a day doing payables. And I've moved from property level positions in operations and sales to regional level positions in administration, operations, sales, transactions related to sales, leasing and rent increases and working with the attorneys, and then also in regional and corporate level positions supervising the properties, financials, all of those things. And I've never said no. Would you do this? No, because I wanted to learn. Some people, you can't do everything. No, I can't do everything. But the more I did, the more I learned, the more I grew, and it allowed me to learn the different aspects of the business and understand, like you said, how they all come together. If I don't sell this home today, it impacts my occupancy. It impacts my NOI, right? Understanding how each thing impacts the other. And so I've had the pleasure and privilege, like I said, of working in many different roles and had gained the experience that I truly think, I have a lot of knowledge that I can share with other people. And I still have a lot to learn that I learned from every client that I've worked with so far. So I see it as a give and take. I can help you in any way that you need. I will try to help you in any way that I can. And in turn, I will likely learn something from you as well.
Yeah. And using a consultant has so much value from this idea of having somebody look at things from the outside, right? Like you mentioned, a community manager can have their blinders on. They pull into the same property every day and they just stop noticing things because it's just kind of white noise. But we do the same thing with operations and financials and all of these things. Sometimes we need fresh eyes on our situation. And I think that's one of the biggest things a consultant can do is not only have fresh eyes, but they have the right eyes to look at a situation and really pinpoint the areas for improvement.
Yeah. The other thing I would say to that is, oftentimes, we've always done it that way. It's like the thing I've just heard my whole life. In every position we've always done it that way. And I am someone who comes in to say, okay, and it's probably perfectly fine that you've done it that way. There's nothing wrong with the way that you're doing it. But what if I could save you 10 minutes? What if I could save you 30 seconds on every transaction that you process in this system or whatever, right? Whatever it is, I am constantly looking for that. How can I do this faster, but still be efficient and not worry about, less user error? Then what I would say, how can I automate this so that I don't have to do it manually? Having a fresh set of eyes come in and look at your day-to-day processes to understand, hey, we probably could be doing this differently. I recently had a client who was processing their management fees manually. And I was like, why? And when that particular person learned they could do it, they could automate it. And this particular company is growing exponentially. And so when he realized, as we get to 30, 40, I don't have to do this 30 or 40 times. I'm like, no, you can automate this. And so, and that's like the best conversation I could have with somebody is you can do it and it's free. I think I already said that, right? It's free. It's included in what you're already paying for.
That's right.
Yeah.
So much benefit. Well, if somebody wants to stop doing things the way they've always done them and they want to have some fresh eyes on it, what's a good way for them to reach out to you and the team to learn more about how you can help out?
They can check us out on LinkedIn, Parish Consulting, on Facebook, on Instagram, or they can go to our website, mindyparish.com.
Excellent. We'll make sure we drop some links into the show notes as well to make sure people can find you there. You're on our website, on Rent Manager's website as well.
Yep.
So we love all the work that you do for our customers. And Mindy, I really appreciate you just taking the time to sit down and have a conversation with me today.
Well, I appreciate being here, Joe. It's been great. And I appreciate the partnership with Rent Manager. It's been a huge game changer for Parish Consulting. And I am really excited about the future.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Well, thanks again for joining us. And thank you to our audience for listening in to another great episode. And until next time, keep going beyond rent.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Beyond Rent. If you enjoyed this podcast, spread the word on social media and with your peers in the industry. To be notified when more episodes are released, subscribe using your favorite podcast player. Beyond Rent is brought to you by Rent Manager Property Management Software. Learn more about Rent Manager's industry-leading software solutions at rentmanager.com. Until next time, keep going beyond rent.